Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to my channel and you can call me Majana. So I wanted to go film this video near the sea on a certain bench, and there was a picture taken of me last year in that place, and I arrive and guess what happens? That bench is gone. And the lesson learned here is do whatever feels right in the moment, because you might lose your chance, your energy, your desire, your inspiration, and your resources forever. So I assume that my intro will be quite long, so if you don't want to wait, you could skip right there. I'll leave the timing. So when I was back in high school during a Lithuanian class, we were reading and discussing a book called Tartuffe, or The Imposter, or The Hypocrite by Moliere. And the short summary of this book would be that there are three main characters. Orgon, the head of the house, Elmire is his wife, and Tartuffe is like a religious friend. And the rest of the family members are trying their best to convince Orgon and to prove that Tartuffe is not as kind and good as he is, but they're failing multiple times until one incident where Orgon was hiding in a room under a table. I personally do not understand how it's possible to not be seen when you're hiding under a table, but let it be. In that room there was also Elmire and Tartuffe having a conversation, and it started getting very inappropriate, and only then Orgon finally realized that his family members were telling the truth. Ultimately, there was a happy ending, and our Lithuanian teacher divided the whole class into two groups, and the main question was, who are worse? Orgon's people who are too naive, or Tartuffe's people who do the bad things? And I happened to be in a group where we had to find arguments why Tartuffe's are worse than Orgon's, and it was quite easy to claim why it is this way, because if there were no people who do bad things, there would be no need for people who are too naive, or for just police officers to exist, if that makes sense. So back then I was convinced that people who do the bad things are worse than those who allow bad things to happen, but then I graduated and I turned 19 and life happened, and I began doubting myself on this belief. And there was a moment where I asked myself, but Majana, could you find a single house which isn't being locked on a regular basis? And I answered no. So I had to come to the conclusion that the final outcome depends not on those who do the bad things, but rather on those who have the power to stop bad things from happening, and they're choosing either to not do anything about the situation, or they're wearing rose-tinted glasses and they pretend that they don't see anything. I wanted to talk about this topic because when you think about it, once a person enters your life and you start to hang out with them, and if things end, there is no way you could bring the time back or delete that person from your memory. So it just makes sense to be cautious. And also it's way easier to prevent the damage from happening rather than to fix the damage that's already been done. And at the end of the day, although you can't control who stumbles on your path, you can control whether you want to get involved or not. And if you choose to get involved with a certain person, then getting your heart broken is a price you have to be ready to pay. I don't know if it's worth mentioning or not, but there was a period in my life where I noticed that my friends have the exact same character pattern, which I absolutely hated. And I realized that this had nothing to do with them, and it had only something to do with me. And I was feeling like if I make new friends, they'll be exactly the same as my previous ones, and I just didn't want it. And I was feeling like I need to fix my inner bullshit first, and it worked. Then I forgot to mention that the goal is to create healthy boundaries and not go to your old patterns. It's basically about creating a lifestyle. And now I'm gonna present you with a few questions which might help you to gain some clarity. I forgot to mention that it's best that you write your answers down somewhere in a notebook when no one's watching, and when you're alone. So the first question is, why do you want to be friends with them? Why? Are your reasons genuine or there is something external going on? I'm asking this because there are just, in my opinion, too many people who seek for a certain person to fill the void that's inside of them, when the real fulfillment actually comes from filling your own cup first. And if you happen to do so, then you might find yourself being in a situation where you're feeling like without that person you're nothing, and I believe it's just very, very unhealthy. The second question is, what are their values? Don't just ask, but pay attention to how they act. There is one quote from J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books by Sirius Black, and it says, "If you want to know what a man's like, take a good look at how he treats his inferiors, not his equals." I believe it's very well said. And if you notice that your values don't match completely, then I may ask you, what's the point of continuing the friendship? Because let's say you value trust and you know that that person does not value trust, and you'll be expecting all this time of the friendship so that this whole thing would be based on trust, but you'll just be disappointed. It's not gonna happen. One example, a friend of mine told me that I can call whenever, even if it's like 5 a.m. in the morning, if something happens and I need to talk. And I answered, "Thank you, I'll keep this in mind, and I really appreciate your help." And then once I was having a bad day, I got into a conflict with one of my teachers, and I just needed someone to talk things out. And I messaged her, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And she replied, "I'm feeling really good right now, and I don't feel like packing my brains with unnecessary information, so maybe let's do this on Friday." And it was Wednesday. And I was like, what's the point of telling that I can call you and text you whenever when you're not keeping your word given? The third question is, can you imagine staying with that person long term? I think it is similar as with career type of goals, because if you can't imagine it, it's not going to happen. And the fourth, probably the most important question of all, is, how do they make you feel? How do you act when you're around them? Is your speech flowing and you're feeling yourself? Or your speech is restricted, edited, filtered, censored, or whatever, and you're feeling uncomfortable in some way or another? Please, please, please pay attention that the way you want to be feeling in their presence is one thing, but the way you do feel in their presence is completely different. For example, there was one guy I really liked, and we were hanging out, and we were friends, and I was having a bad day once, and I was crying. And normally, if I trust a person, I don't mind crying in front of them, but for some reason I was wiping my tears away, so he didn't see me crying. And then I went into my room and I was like, but why was I hiding my tears from him? And basically, it showed that I thought I trust him, but the way I was acting instinctively showed that it was the other way around. And it was just uncomfortable to admit it. Hi, I'm currently editing, and I decided to add one more question or two to the list, which is, what's their shit sandwich and am I willing to accept it? So in a book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic, there is a concept explained, shit sandwich, which means like the worst parts of any profession. For instance, you want to become a writer and you spend multiple hours writing that book, and perhaps one day it finally gets published. And within the first 2 weeks after publishing it, you realize that no one is buying your book because the electronic version of it is available on torrent websites and people are downloading it for free. And I don't see a difference why cultures or people would be an exception for this concept. Another example, let's imagine you're moving abroad and at first you're excited and everything, But within a few months, you start noticing certain things that aren't that great about their culture. And the ultimate question you have to be asking yourself is not about what you love and adore about this culture, but rather, how willing are you to be dealing with this, and that on a daily basis, which you absolutely hate, but still have to do just because you decided to live in this culture. And for the end, I'd like to share some thoughts from a book I'm currently reading by Bodo Shifa. So, our friendships reflect our self-worth and self-awareness. The second is, when you love yourself and respect yourself, it is impossible that you would allow somebody else to treat you in a disrespectful and unworthy way. Which I believe really makes sense. And my favorite is, don't be afraid of losing people. Be afraid of losing yourself. Yeah. I think that this will be it for today. Let me know if I missed anything. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go and live my life now, and I hope that you go to live yours. Take care. Bye bye.